to be able to see kind of the game slip away from you, especially in tournament time, it's clutch. And all those points when we talk about going to the charity stripe, getting the easy ones, making the buckets when they count, all of that stuff has to come together. And you really need your perfect game when you get into the regionals to be able to make that trip to Dayton. And for some of our local teams, it did come to an end, but there were some good highlights throughout the early part of the week.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about getting to the Sweet 16, that's a tremendous accomplishment. But, you know, just getting there is one thing. You know, you want to try to advance and go beyond that, but sometimes that's just not in the cards. So let's talk about these games. Let's talk about our Hackenberg Financial Group, their week in review. And St. Thomas Aquinas took down Vienna Matthews 77-58 in that Sweet 16 game. And TJ, I was at this game, had a chance to see it. St. Thomas went down by 12 points in the first half in this. They came back, they cut it to 1. I had talked to Scott Giamarco, and he told me, he says, I want to try to get it to 3. Well, he got it to 1 off that huge dunk from Chris Tackett. And I'll tell you what, if we talk about maybe the most improved player in the county this year, Chris Tackett may be that guy.
The 6'7" big man with 18 points in that game, Mark, and you were able to get that on video. I think it's had 1 million views already now online. It went viral. But again, we talk about the common theme here this week that, you know, St. Thomas, I mean, trailing by 12 points early in that ball game, staying locked in, staying focused, knowing that you don't have to do it all at once, but if you can kind of get to within 3 points before the half, close the gap, and then rely on some adjustments, some conversations at the half, come back out, regrouped, and then try and put that new strategy in place. And they did that. You know, you look at Julius Kimbrough, leaves the game with an ankle injury, and he's really been the guy as just a young sophomore for this team, but to see Chris Tackett step in there and really take over and dominate this game with the dunk, really kind of playing off of Grogan and Deshaun Leishman with his 17 points. It's nice for a coach to see when your key or star player goes out that the other guys aren't just going to fold up and push in the chips and say, okay, you know, we had a great run and this is a number 1 seed Mustangs that we're playing here. And, you know, it was fun just to get to this point here at the Fieldhouse. Figure out a way to get it done, and the Knights did that, and that was really, it was a pleasure to see that, because again, we're going to see that throughout this entire week in this show here, where some teams stayed dialed in, even trailing throughout the entire game, they were still able to get the W.
Tell you what, when you talk about mentality of that team, when you lose that 12-point lead, that second half, I had a feeling that things were going to wind up changing in St. Thomas's favor. And when you looked at the Knights, I mean, they were just more athletic than Vienna was, and they saw that coming. And once that snowball started to roll, it was over. So other guys had stepped up, you had mentioned, but nobody more than Chris Tackett. And I had an opportunity to meet his father afterwards. TJ, his dad, is about your size. The guy's put together. Big weight room guy. We talked about his son, where he's going to wind up going, and I know that Mount Union has showed a lot of interest in him. And so I texted Mike Fueline afterwards. I said, Mike, I'm telling you right now, I think this kid would fit well in over at Mount Union.
Coach Mike's always looking for a good 6'7" guy, right? Somebody who can kind of dominate down in the paint and do those things, play above the rim. But Mark, you know, I always kind of compare it, what you said there, to the game of football, where you talk about deflating a team and really you lose all confidence in what's going on. You get inside the red zone, you get into the goal line, and you can't score, and that defense shuts you down. When you're out there on the hardwood and you see yourself up by 10 thinking, okay, we got this thing handled, and to see it just keep going lower and lower and lower until the point where you're losing the game thinking, what just happened here? We came out, we stormed the floor and ran it hard. I mean, this Matthews team, really, they came out and played well. They played fast. But again, Coach Giamarco, I mean, a great season. To be 15-10, most people are going to overlook them. But we've talked all season long about the strong schedule, the tough schedule that the Knights played throughout this regular season. It really helped them when it came time for tournament.
Think about this. When they went and made that state championship run, well, the state tournament run, I should say, they came in at 500 that year.
Yep.
Just like they came in at 500 this year. So we knew that when they played Richmond Heights, and Richmond Heights beat them 77-54, we knew that this Richmond Heights team was athletic. I think I had mentioned to you that they stuck around, and they had, for the second game, they wanted to see what Aquinas had. And those weren't teenagers I was walking by. It was like those were young men I was looking at. You know, you look at that front line, goes 6'6", 6'7", 6'5". You knew St. Thomas was going to have trouble with those guys. They held it close in the first quarter, but then after that Richmond Heights team really took over.
Smart move. Stick around, do a little inside recruiting,
right,
or a little inside scouting, figuring out what you're going to be going up against. And the other theme to me, as we talk about some of these teams here today, is, man, the Glen Oak Golden Eagles would have had a state championship team if some of these pieces would have stuck around playing local. JoJo Harris heading to West Virginia, a superior talent out there on the court. And he didn't have to do a ton in this game, but he kind of led his team. You know, he only had 8 points, but you look at London, Iron Maiden out there on the court, man, 6'8", 200-pounder. I mean, this guy, the physicality that he was able to bring to the court, there were certain things that the Knights just couldn't do when trying to cover down on him. Jaden Cox-Holloway played a huge part in this game. And, Mark, just watching it, you could tell that the athleticism, the speed of the game, it was on a completely different level.
Absolutely.
And the Knights were just outmatched all around.
Yeah, and you look at Richmond Heights, they're going to wind up taking on a Highland team who I think is just going to be absolutely overmatched. And not because it was St. Thomas that Richmond Heights had beaten. I think that Richmond Heights is a state champion in Division IV. I don't know who's going to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, Highland was able to take down Malvern. We didn't see that coming, but Malvern lost Mike Miner, their best player. They would go on to beat Newark Catholic by 1 point and then beat Western by 10 points. You know, Highland coming out of the IVC South, they had a phenomenal regular season, but to think that they're going to have to try and cover down on some of these guys from Richmond Heights. I mean, JoJo Harris, even to say him having an off night with only 8 to 10 points, you know, just trying to cover down on him, that's not going to happen 2-3 games in a row. So you expect JoJo Harris to come back out and really dominate this game. And I'll tell you what, JoJo Harris, just a super kid. You know, he's from this area. He stuck around after the game, took pictures with the fans. A really good kid. Everybody knows that Coach Huggins is getting a really, really good talent coming down there to West Virginia. Interested to see how things will work out for him when he gets down there.
I think he's going to do great. And when you look at Aquinas, the cupboard's not going to be bare next year for Coach Gianmarco. Kimbrough, Leishman, Kelly, Grogan, all those guys are going to be back. But replacing 6'7" Chris Tackett, that's going to be a tough one there.
Yeah, but when you have Leishman, I mean, come on. I mean, when you look at what Julius Kimbrough has been able to do for this team, he's only going to get better. This is going to be a really strong STA team coming back next year.
I like what you're thinking. Hey, we're going to take a short break here. We come back. We got more games to go through, so stay tuned.
Are you looking for something different? At Friends and Family Credit Union, our success is defined by you. Our goal is to improve your financial needs and better your lifestyle. Friends and Family Credit Union provides loans, savings, checking, and other financial services to anyone who lives, works, worships, or attends school in Stark County. Our friendly staff is fully committed to serving over 11,000 of its members. What are you waiting for? Stop in one of our locations today to become a friend of the family.
We're your neighbor.
We are drivers.
We are haulers. We are recyclers. We are collectors.
We are sorters.
We are communicators.
We are administrators.
We are navigators.
We are supporters. We are heavy lifters.
We are hard workers.
We are early risers. We are late nighters.
We get the job done.
And we get it done right.
We are a team.
We are a family.
We are Kimball.
We are Kimball. We are Kimball.
We are Kimball.
Recycling and disposal done right.
Hello, I'm Terry Moore, an attorney with Krugliak, Wilkins, Griffiths, and Doherty. Our attorneys and families have special connections with the sports programs in Stark, Tuscarawas, and Holmes counties. I played basketball at Canton Lehman High School and at Youngstown State University. My daughter coaches at North Canton Hoover High School. We understand the commitment it takes to build successful programs, and we are proud to support the local athletes in this program.
Welcome back to the second quarter of the show. We still have some Hackenberg Financial Group that we can review to get through. Louisville 90, Cleveland Glenville 86. What do you expect? Louisville, tournament game, another tight one. But this is one, TJ, you kind of foreshadowed on this when you talked about the fact that there's a team that was leading the entire game. Glenville comes back. They showed why they deserve to be in this tournament.
Man, this was really fun for me too, because obviously getting to cover Louisville, one of our local teams around here, and seeing them have a historic run for their boys basketball team, and Coach Tom Siegfried this year getting his 200th win. But to talk to Coach Mike Holt from Glenville, who phenomenal guy. This is a guy who's beat cancer, beat leukemia. He's out there. He's been coaching these kids for over 20 years. You know, to be able to go up and talk to him before the game and talk about Ted Ginn and Troy Smith and Dante Whitner, the list goes on. All these guys that I played with down there at Ohio State. Bryant Browning, who's the owner of Pit Barbecue. If you've never stopped down there, check it out in Columbus. It's phenomenal. He's an offensive lineman for a reason. We like to eat. But
there's a freebie for you when you go down there the next time.
You know, they stayed locked in this entire time, Mark, and Louisville really, for the most part of this game, was up by 7, 8, 9 points. And Savante Quarles, the big fella, Tavarian Sanders, got a chance to talk to him. Actually, kind of gave him a little nudge during the game as I was standing back there behind their bench. Just stay locked in, stay focused. And he did. He got there to the line. They made the free throws when it counted. And before you know it, they're heading to overtime. And what a great game that was put on down there at the Civic Center. And shout out to Bill Schumacher, who kind of runs the site down there for these tournament games. When you get out of sectionals and districts and it becomes an OSHA, a state tournament thing, you know, you have site directors and multiple teams coming in, double headers. Bill Schumacher, tip of the cap, man. You did a phenomenal job. Loved getting to talk to you and catch up with you. But Will Aljancic, man, did that kid pop off? I mean, 37 points, was all over the court. Everything was falling for him. And Tyler Bolden kind of picked up, too, where he had left off. We mentioned through that Canton South game and the Howland game where Double Deuce, man, he came out there. He was dropping the 3-ball. He was doing what he had to in the paint, being physical alongside A.J. Lingenhall. And it was fun to see how all of these Louisville Leopard players played off of each other. It was a total team game. Yeah. Although it should have never went to overtime, Mark. It did. They were able to maintain and still win the ball game.
I don't think Will Aljancic came off the floor that night, did he?
No, he didn't. And I'll tell you what, he is just a phenomenal athlete. When we talk about St. Thomas returning a bunch of weapons, getting ready for next season, this Louisville team is going to be loaded up as well with Hayden Igro coming back, Will Aljancic. Those two players right there, maybe the best 1-2 punch in the county.
Yeah, Tyler Bolden's the only senior starter that they're losing from that team. They're going to be really good. But when I was watching this game, and I do really care a lot about Tom Siegfried, he and I are good friends, to see your son come into that situation in overtime, score the first 2 points in the overtime. He had 4 points, 4 free throws. He was the Iceman at the free throw line. That's the difference in this overtime. Louisville never trailed in overtime, but there's always somebody that's going to have to step up. Bolden fouled it out. You mentioned Lingenhall. He came in, and all he had to do was go against 6'5", 310 pounds Tavion Sanders, and did a nice job against him.
Yeah, I mean, Sanders, when you stand next to him, he is an impressive figure. You know, I looked at him and thought, man, I wish I could have been that size when I was in high school. The kid is huge, but he moves around well. I kind of compared his game a little bit to Sheon Cotton from when he was there at St. V alongside LeBron and some of those great players. Sanders moves around well. He'll be playing offensive tackle in college somewhere. You can count on that. He's a Division I prospect. But this was just a great game, a great atmosphere to be a part of. Those are the ones you like to be around. And for Coach Siegfried to see your son, just a young player on this team, kind of, we talk a lot about coaches' kids being gym rats, knowing the game. Bo falls in that line.
No, he does. Great game for them and a great season for the Louisville Leopards that unfortunately ended when they had to play against St. Vincent St. Mary, and St. V took them down 61-21. So Louisville finishes the season at 20-7. St. V goes to 22-4. The deepest run, the greatest season ever in Louisville history. I didn't want to see this game end the way that it did, but I'll tell you what, and Dean Marini said it, when you have more turnovers than you do points in the game, they couldn't get the ball past midcourt. 25, 24 turnovers totaled in this game. You can't get shots off. You get held to 4 points in the fourth quarter. You got a running clock in the second half. That's a tough pill to swallow.
There was great effort by Coach Joyce's team. You know, the only time one of the guys had to get picked up off the court, he had gone behind the basket after making a layup, and I was back there to give young Ethan Connery a hand up off the ground. But I mean, the effort by Raymar Pryor. You talk about a former Glen Oak Golden Eagle. Hey, my Golden Eagles, I'm telling you right now, could have had a state championship team if all these players would have stuck around. But Sincere Harris, a former North Canton Hoover player, these guys were unstoppable. Darius Stratford, the big center, just too much to deal with for Louisville. We talked about A.J. Lingenhall coming into the game. These guys, they just couldn't cover down. And you mentioned even before the start of the show, Mark, just getting the ball across half court, getting yourself in a position to be able to set up a shot. It just wasn't there for the Louisville Leopards. congratulate them on a great season, a historic season for them. But St. Vincent St. Mary, defending state champ, 5 regional titles in a row for a reason. Coach Drew Joyce knows what he's doing. He's been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, so Tom Siegfried and Louisville Nation over there, great season. Tom got his 200th win. You mentioned that, and I know he's got a lot more in the tank. And like you said, I think next year they're going to be a really dangerous team with all those guys coming back. And you're going to have some young guys stepping up, and St. V is going to wind up taking on Kettering Alder in their next game. You know, this next one, Green and Hoban took them down 60-54. We talked about having to play somebody more than one time, and this is a Hoban team that came back, and I think they just kept getting better and better. But when you're an offensive team, well, I don't care if it's football or basketball, when you start limiting the other team to possessions, you're limiting yourself to shots too. It caught up with Green in this game. They wanted to be physical. Hoban was all of those things, but Hoban was able to come back in that fourth quarter and take the lead.
That's the theme, right, Mark? And we look at Green, they were able to beat Hoban on New Year's Eve, 58-42. Different time. You know, you look 2-3 months later, it's a whole different team. And when you're talking tournament time, for Green to have to go 5-6 minutes in the end of that ball game without scoring any points, that's when you have to lean on a guy like Zach Odo, a guy that's going to be heading to Walsh, a guy who's probably the best player inside of the Federal League, to stop the bleeding, and they could not do that. And Hoban, tip your cap to them. They stayed in the ball game. They stayed within striking distance. They made the plays when they had to. Jonah Nichols, that three-pointer that he made to tie it up, you talk about ice in your veins. To make that shot, to pull that off, there's not a whole lot of people that can do that. So that young man right there, he gets a lot of credit for keeping his team in it. To make that shot to send it to overtime was huge.
What a great job Hoban did on defense. I mean, there's a little over 2 minutes left. They erase an 8-point deficit. Usually 2 minutes left, you're up by 8. You're going to get to the free throw line. You're going to extend this thing. But I had a feeling that when Nichols hit that three, that really took the wind out of the sail. Now, Green was put in a position they're saying, hey, you know, we've been here before, but not many times this season. And Hoban just took over in overtime.
And Green was on a 13-game winning streak, you know, so they're feeling great about themselves. You know, they're the number 2 seed, playing some great basketball. But Hoban, again, they just stuck in it. They know what it's like facing some Federal League teams. They had their way with Jackson, the Polar Bears beating them, and Will Scott, along with Logan Val, some 3-point balls were able to come from their side. Man, I'll tell you what, it was tough to see Green exit the tournament this way, because I think we expected them with this team, with this caliber of talent, with Trey Martin, Odo, Brady Rollison, who to me is one of the better underrated players in the county. Thought we'd see them getting to Dayton.
Great year to be a Green Bulldog, whether it was football or basketball. Congratulations to them. And we're going to miss Trey Martin. You know, he's going to take off. He's going to play football over at Ashland. What a great game he had with his 20 points there. So that's our Hackenberg Financial Group that we can review. Take a break. We're going to come back. We got some more basketball to go through, so stay tuned.
I'm more than just your pharmacist. I'm your neighbor. Our kids go to the same schools.
We eat at the same restaurants.
Even shop at the same stores.
More of the money you spend in my pharmacy on quality, competitively priced products
stays in our local economy.
Support your local Good Neighbor Pharmacy
and make our community a better place to live.
Get to know your neighbor at goodneighborpharmacy.com.
In Canton, see Matt and Steve Fettman, and in North Canton, Jeff Hale.
Dr. Brian Ash, Dr. Michael Babbix, and Dr. John Ash are a family dental office focusing on orthodontics, mouth guards, crowns, bridges, and extractions. Their staff from top to bottom will exceed your expectations, for you are not just a patient to them, you are part of their family. Don't trust your smile to anyone else. Contact Doctors Ash and Babbix at 4425 Fulton Road Northwest, or visit them on the web. We are creating beautiful smiles for all ages.
1372 Show, the QB and the OG, recorded on location at the Hall of Fame Village in conjunction with the NFL Alumni Association, featuring former Ohio State All-American and College Football Hall of Famer TJ Downing and Jim Ballard. Listen as they mix a variety of guests from Pro Football Hall of Famers such as Curtis Martin, Jack Youngblood, and Franco Harris, to NFL legends like Mike Kent, Brad Johnson, and Irving Fryer. Subscribe to the YouTube channel today and follow along on social media. 1372 Show.
Welcome back to the show. And TJ, we've talked so much about the guys this year. I wanted to make sure that we didn't leave the Jackson girls out. And what a tremendous season they had. Their first trip to the Final Four. Unfortunately, they came up short there. They ran into a little bit of a buzzsaw, and Mason lost and lost that game 54-35. But I'll tell you what those girls did over at Jackson, you know, you talk about that Jackson team, and you mention a Pilata. I mean, the Pilatas, right. I think everybody at Jackson should be bowing to the parents of those kids, what they've done over there. And what a great job she did coming back from that serious knee injury that she had last year. But the idea of getting down to that Final Four for them was really special.
Yeah, and to think that they had to deal with a knee injury to Lauren Pilata, also to Lydia Umlauf. I mean, this is a Jackson team to me that, for them to be able to make this run on the back of what Taylor Mikesell did and kind of set that foundation for them. And a great story that came out this week, everybody knows the head coach Anthony Butch, but Gary Isler, who was one of my teachers over there at Glen Oak, a long time basketball coach over there, had some phenomenal talent through the late 80s into the 90s. Between Coach Isler and Coach Butch, they really put a strong team together to head down there to the Final Four. Just not able to get it done in the second half. It's 22-18 going into the half. Lena Pantabanla, she was able to knock down a three, keep it close, but Kyla Oldacre, 6'6", going to the U, Miami recruit, 21 points, 19 boards, 13 and 13 in the second half. They just couldn't stop her. And that's just, in the girls' game, how hard is that, Mark, to defend and cover down on a girl who's 6'6", who can play that high?
There's not that many girls that are out there that you're going to run into, and you can't even prepare for that. Unless you had, you know, one of the boys that were coming in that were that big and you had them playing against them. I know that Paul Wackerly used to do that a lot of times when he was coaching the girls, would bring them in. That's the only way to do it, but you just can't duplicate that during the course of a practice game.
Right, and to think, again, you're up, it's 22-18, Mason's on top of Jackson at the half, and then Mason's able to come out and outscore the Polar Bears 20-7 in the third quarter. That right there, when we talk about, Mark, demoralizing, you know, to see a lead diminish, even though the Polar Bears weren't leading, to be outscored by 13 points, that was the sign right there that it wasn't going to be enough for the Polar Bears to get back into it in the fourth.
Yeah, great season for them. And your Federal League champs, district champs, sectional champions, regional champions. I mean, it was just a tremendous run that they had over there. So congratulations to the Lady Bears. And, you know, with those great games that we had, we did have some great performances too. So let's talk about our BSN Sports Players of the Week. Chris Tackett, we mentioned him early in the show. He had 18 points, TJ, 12 rebounds, 6 block shots, and 5 assists in that 77-58 win over Vienna. And Will Aljancic, boy, I'll tell you what, that was maybe the best performance of the season. 37 points, 6 boards, 3 assists. He broke Chris Libertor's scoring record of 549 points in that game in their 90-86 win over Glenville. And boy, his running mate, Hayden Niagara over at Louisville, 22 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, and that win that they had over Glenville. 2 really impressive performances there.
Yeah, and I got to correct you, partner, because, you know, I bleed green and gold, right?
Right.
The girls team, the Glen Oak girls, were Federal League champs this year. Jackson, I think they finished 4th inside of the Federal League. So for them to make this run, really, again, historic for them. Proud we are to be able to see what Louisville did, what Jackson did. To do it for the first time, it's something special. So always give a shout out to my Glen Oak Gold neighbors.
I was waiting for the wings to start coming out again. Hey, and with that, we're going to fly into the fourth quarter of the show here. We'll be right back in a few seconds.
Imagine a knife taking this much abuse and didn't need sharpening. Introducing the incredible Nutrablade Knives. They're coated with granite stone non-stick and made of stainless steel, one of the hardest substances on Earth. Now everyone can chop, slice, and dice just like a pro. The Easy Grip rubberized handles deliver incredible control and accuracy to chop salads in seconds and cut frozen solid meat with ease and get razor-thin slices every time. The non-stick surface means food slides right off, and they're dishwasher safe. Plus, they'll stay razor sharp, guaranteed. A complete set of chef knives can cost you hundreds, but today you can get this professional 6-piece set of Nutrablades for just $29.95.
Order right now, and we'll even ship them to you free. Now get your own Nutrablade knives from Granitestone. The last knives you'll ever buy.
Call 1-800-618-3158 or go to mynutrablade.com.
Welcome back to the fourth quarter of the show. Normally we're going to talk about games that are coming up here, but instead we're going to talk about the all-Downing team. So here's a guy that's going to tell you how he's going to try to settle all of this stuff. So talk about how you're going to structure this.
Yeah, so when we talk about an all-Downing team, comparing it to an all-Madden team, every time we announce somebody, we have to say, here's a guy or here's a girl as we go through these teams. But, you know, really we want to kind of structure it the same way as you would see these teams come out onto the court. So you have your starting five, you have your paint player, your five ball, your point guard, your two shooters, your forwards. We're going to kind of structure it through a first, second, and third team where you'll even have your three bench players coming off. We'll talk about a six-man, but through the first team, second team, and third team, we'll have 8 players, and then we'll have our coaches of the year. Again, we'll have our boys and girls team. So much talent around the area, Mark, that we've been able to witness and see throughout this season on both sides of it. And we're really kind of fortunate and blessed around here through all of our sports, through all of our varsity sports, to have so much talent that, you know, sometimes goes unnoticed. And one of the reasons that we've kind of formed Stark Media is to be able to get more attention on some of these sports and some of these athletes. So they deserve it, and we're here to kind of give it to you.
I think that when you're putting your team together, it's not always easy to do that. You know, you're looking what kids would be. I think it's really going to be difficult to figure out who the coach of the year was for the boys, though.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what.
Strong arguments to be made for 3 guys.
I mean, to me, Coach Siegfried, what he was able to do, getting that 200th win. We talked about some of the games that really stuck out to us this year, Mark, and when he played against Coach Tom McBride and the Lake Blue Streaks there at home in Leopard Nation, to be able to get that 200th win, that's really a staple in his resume. Coach Kinsley, what he did there with the Green Bulldogs. Right. Again, I was kind of hoping that they would make it down to Dayton. I thought that they were going to be able to get past Hoban and get it done there, leading that entire game. Wasn't meant to be, but Coach Kinsley, a great job on his part. And, you know, between him and Coach Siegfried and to me, Mark, too, I was so high on the McKinley Bulldogs at the end of this season. Coach V did a phenomenal job, and wasn't really expecting to have a whole lot coming into this season. He's another guy that's going to be just loaded up with talent again coming back.
And Coach Gianmarco over at St. Thomas with the deep run that they made over there. You talk about some of the big games that happened this season. One that really stuck out to me was the Jackson-North Canton game. And Jackson coming back in that game, I think it was the biggest deficit that they had that they ever came back from. And talking to Tim DeBevick over there, and, you know, that's another team. Jackson's usually good every year. They struggle a little bit this season. They're going to reload again next year. Now, they're losing quite a bit from this team, though.
Yeah, and for me, too, looking at some of these key games, Jackson girls versus Glen Oak girls, I mean, really that kind of decided the Federal League. And for what those coaches have done, Coach Isler, Coach Butch, and even Coach Wackerly over there, it's fun. And, Mark, it's always fun to see how you reload. It's fun to see the young guys step up and what they're able to do. And it's fun for us to cover some of the smaller schools around this area, too. And we know that Richmond Heights is going to be playing Highland out of the IVC South. They're going to have their hands full taking on Heights. They really can run the court fast.
They do. So you can be the prognosticator. We got a little bit of time here left. Who do you think is going to win it in the divisions?
I'll tell you what, St. V, after seeing them, I think that they could beat anybody in any division, whether it's at the top in Division 1, they're playing inside of Division 2. We all kind of know after seeing them, they're not really a Division 2 team. They should be competing at that higher level. To me, what I really would be excited to see would be St. Ed's taking on St. Ignatius in Dayton for the state championship. We talked before the show about them being a couple miles apart. How fun would that be?
I think that'll be great. And so if you have a chance to get down to those games over there, you definitely want to go down to Dayton to see them. It's a great arena. But I encourage you to tune in next week. We may have Lee Shooter Foster here on the show with us.